Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me, and welcome to everyone joining us again for this daily live stream. Let's give ourselves a couple of minutes to make sure everything's up and running before we begin with our topic tonight. I want to talk to you about Iran's response to the Israeli assassination, another assassination in Syria, and the threats to have a further escalation with Iran or from Iran, another retaliation on Israel after their previous retaliation when Israel attacked the Iranian consulate in Syria. It looks like everything's live now. Again, welcome everyone to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me. And welcome to all of our members, subscribers, viewers, and everyone for another live stream. If you're new, obviously welcome as well. I do these live streams regularly apart from my short videos that usually include updates. And this live stream is usually extended where we talk in more detail about related topics, obviously, but where I obviously open the space up for you and give you a platform to share your thoughts as well and ask any questions if you have any. And obviously, excuse me in advance if I'm unable to reach all of them. So I had a video published earlier on, and I'm going to have another video. It will be published during this live stream that you can watch after this live stream ends. There are many things happening, many dangerous escalations, many statements from Israel that hint that we're going towards another escalation, this time in Lebanon. In the previous video that I published, I spoke about these statements from the leading figures in Israel, really, from the president to war cabinet members to other statements as well, and about the lethal attacks that came from Hezbollah. I'm going to have another video published with updates on the ground from what Israel is actually doing in preparation for an all-out war with Lebanon, and simultaneously from Lebanon. Obviously, the majority of the people in Lebanon, like the majority of the population in Arab countries and Muslim countries, hell, the majority of the populations across the world, what are we talking about, support the Palestinian cause and are willing to be active and participate. However, there's a group of people in Lebanon, like a group of people in Palestine, really, who would do anything to hinder any progress against this genocidal state. So like we have the PA led by Mahmoud Abbas in Palestine, we have similar figures in Lebanon. These figures will release any venom and toxic statements against, obviously, the Lebanese resistance that's doing something to support the Palestinian people, in solidarity with the Palestinian people who are being slaughtered by a racist, fascist death cult. Yet you have people who will go out and criticize, and obviously Israel will like them. They'll start having statements about them in Israeli media. Oh, look, people are criticizing Hezbollah and this and that. Again, although they're a minority. And I spoke about this, by the way, from the beginning, and elaborated on how Hezbollah considered Lebanon and internal politics in Lebanon when they participated after the 7th of October, because there are people who oppose Hezbollah in Lebanon. However, they will criticize regardless. They will criticize if it's something minimal. They will criticize if it's an escalation. and they will play the role of Israel in deflecting, like the Palestinian Authority and what they're doing, blaming what's happening in Gaza on Hamas. Typical deflection, serving the enemies of humanity and the enemies of the Palestinian people, serving the criminal, barbaric genocide people, the genocidal maniacs in Israel, who are committing one of the worst genocides in history. But you have these people. You have these people. So, Iran. Israel is enabled. They're an enabled state. And because they're enabled and because their crimes are always covered up by their backers and by their supporters, they have the audacity to continue committing crimes. This is how they're committing this genocide in Gaza. And this is how they continue to attack other nations. Israel is a threat to regional and global security. They constantly attack other countries in the name of self-defense. And it's based on an approach of entitlement and supremacy. So they will constantly attack in Syria and in Lebanon and in other countries under the false pretext of self-defense, because these people can't arm themselves, these people can't support themselves, these people can't prepare. Only we can prepare. This is how Israel views it. So they've had this attack on the Iranian consulate, which is considered Iranian soil in Syria, which attracted an Iranian response in accordance to international law. And you've had the criticism going to Iran. You've had the Western leaders going to Iran, don't go on a reckless attack against Israel. Not Israel being genocidal and reckless and brutal and racist and whatever you want to call it. No, they'll go against Iran for retaliating. What if it was a European embassy? Would you respond in the same manner? What if it was an EU state member? Would you respond in the same manner? Of course they don't. So they attacked Syria again. And they assassinated again an official in the IRGC. Iran has two armies, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps and the Iranian National Army. The IRGC is there to protect the revolution. And they are in charge of many overseas operations, including the support of the resistance movements in the region. And Israel constantly attacks them. Now they've had another attack, which was reported, I'm going to quote it from AA, Anatolu Agency. They had a couple of details about this attack and the response from Iran, the response from the leader of the IRGC. Iran's top military commander has warned that Israel must wait for a response. Israel must wait for a response following the killing of a military advisor in northern Syria earlier this week. Israel will pay for the blood of IRGC serviceman Saeed Abyar, General Hussein Salami, the chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, said in a statement published by state media on Wednesday. Quote, "The child-killing Zionist criminals." Wow. I love their descriptions of Israel. Wow, why is it so good? They're competing with me. The child-killing Zionist criminals. Wow, well done, General Hussein Salami, on this accurate description. He's beating me, General Hussein Salami. See, the Iranians, they have better... Okay, we're close. Okay, all right, we're close. So he said, quote, "The child-killing Zionist criminals should bear in mind that they will pay the price for the pure bloodshed in this crime. They should await response. The Zionists should await Iran's response," IRGC commander warned. Again, we're familiar with many other statements. The way they speak and their terminology is very accurate when it comes to Israel, and no many other leaders, if any, dare to speak in such a straightforward, accurate description. The strike occurred more than 2 months after an attack on the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital that killed 7 IRGC officials, including 2 high-ranking commanders responsible for Syria and Lebanon. General Muhammad Reza Zahidi, a veteran commander who previously commanded the IRGC's ground and air forces and served as the deputy commander of the IRGC's military operations, was among those killed in that attack. Although Israel did not claim responsibility, Iran accused Tel Aviv and warned of a stern response. Days later, Iran carried out its first direct attack on Israel, dramatically escalating tensions between the 2 regional arch foes who do not share political or diplomatic ties. General Salami said the slain IRGC advisor, who belonged to the central Al-Burs province, was part of Iran's advisory mission to Syria. The IRGC commander said the advisor will inspire revolutionary youth forever. In January, 5 IRGC military advisors were killed in an attack on a 4-story building in the Mazzeh neighborhood of Damascus. Iran blamed Israel for the attack. Weeks before that, a similar attack killed senior IRGC commander Sayyid Razi Mousavi in the suburbs of Damascus. Mousavi was a veteran IRGC military advisor who served in Syria and was described as one of the close companions of Iran's slain military commander, General Qasem Soleimani, that obviously Donald Trump assassinated. What do we understand? Well, the first thing we understand that the Iranian leadership, they know how to speak and how to describe. They use the correct terminology. General Hussein Salami. The child-killing Zionist criminals. Can it be clearer than that? Thank you very much. This is how you describe them, as they are. Stop sugarcoating, stop legitimizing and whitewashing. They'll describe them as they are. That's number 1. Number 2, that there will be a response. There will be a response from Iran. Number 3, the response now, if Iran responds, and this is very, very important, by the way, and this is a very important development and significant development. The Iranian response will be not against an attack or in retaliation to an attack carried out on what it deems to be its soil, but on an attack on one of its people, one of its officials, abroad, anywhere. Okay, so far there is Syria because they're very active there, but this sets a new equation. So previously we had the equation of Iran telling Israel, okay, you're going to attack, we will respond. We're not going to be quiet anymore. But they obviously quoted international law and UN articles and charters, and their response was perfectly legal. And now they're saying, everything you do, you will have a response to that. And based on their previous response, we clearly are going to see another response from Iran. Where, how, when, we don't know. Previous attack, it was just several days, just over a week maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember exactly how many, but it wasn't too long. It was a matter of days. You can consider it that way. This time, will it be similar? Will it be quicker, a bit later on? Who knows? But they said that they will respond. Thirdly, what do we understand and make out of this? That the child-murdering Zionist state is still protected 8 months into a genocide. 50,000, if you calculate the missing people, casualties later, innocent civilians, over 15,000 of which children, one of the biggest massacres of children in history. Israel killed more children in the past 8 months, more than any other country in all of the global conflicts in the past 4 years combined. Over 15,000. International independent organizations prove WHO, UN organizations, because some people start to cast doubt on the numbers, obviously, telling you the Hamas-led Ministry of Health in Gaza said so, to cast doubt on what they say. Imagine how shameful these people are, these people who cover up for a genocide. Imagine how abhorrent, really, and depraved these people are. They'll cover it up. Shows that they're still enabled. So although we have an increasing criticism, although we have more recognition, for example, of a Palestinian state, countries cutting ties, countries banning exports, countries supporting the boycott, there are certain countries, there are certain people in power who are giving Israel a complete blank check to do whatever the hell they want to do. And don't be taken aback by these leverage. We speak about them, obviously, to let you know what's happening, but don't let any of that fool you. If anyone was serious about stopping this criminal state, they would take their forces there and threaten them with immediate action. Israel wouldn't have done any of what it's done without US support. Number one, top of the list, US support. And then, obviously, they're backed by the genocide cartel. You know, people who openly declare that they're Zionists. Your leaders, many of them declare that they're Zionists in Europe and in the US. What does that mean? That means your leaders admit that they adopt a racist, violent, terrorist ideology that is genocidal and commits crimes against humanity in accordance to international law and the highest court on the planet, the ICJ. This is the world that we live in. So they're still supported by them. To what extent? That's the argument here. To what extent? Obviously, they want them there. All of this talk is to defend and protect Israel. You need to understand that. So if people have like slight criticism or please increase the aid or more people, it's to save Israel. It's for nothing else. They're upset about the fact that Israel is tarnishing its own image. So the US, Britain, other countries in the NATO, they're more worried about Israel's image than Israel itself. Masses in Israel are calling Benjamin Netanyahu the crime minister and that he's in charge of killing Israelis, right? He has blood on his hands. And you have these countries bang on about democracy and human rights supporting this man. When is this coming? This is coming with a very, very high likelihood of an all-out war with Lebanon. And we don't say that out of vacuum. We always stated that there is a potential of escalation with Lebanon, but now we're seeing everything gathering together. Firstly, Hezbollah, they had doubled their attacks in the month of May. And when they attack, they hit. When they target, they hit. Today, they attacked an Israeli base in Horfish, and Israel admitted that they had 11 casualties, 6 of which were in critical condition, critically wounded. This is the theme. That is the theme. UAVs, direct missiles, specific weapons, and Israel has no answer. Why? Because they targeted the Iron Dome. No interception, no sirens. By the way, in many cases, Israelis complain that they hear no sirens sometimes when they have the attacks. Apart from the fact that they're burning the whole of the northern part of Israel, and you have so much criticism from the heads of the Israeli settlements in the north. Israel just had, and I'm going to publish more details about this in my other video that you can watch after this video. They called 50,000 more reservists. Israel has 300,000 reservists in total. They added 50,000, meaning a 16% increase. Now, you might ask, where are they getting them from, seeing as they're struggling anyway? Good question. It might not be completely accurate, but they declared that. And fact of the matter is, we're seeing movements in Israel. And also, these are reservists. So these people haven't trained for a very long time. They're coming out from cushy positions. They're not fit. Many of them probably don't have combat experience. It's a recipe for failure. But they want to make up the numbers. Because if your most advanced division, Division 36, that contains the oldest Israeli brigades from 1948, the successors of the Haganah, if they failed in Gaza, if they failed in Khan Yunis, what are you expecting these reservists to do? And if it's for Lebanon, what are you expecting them to do in Lebanon? Now, obviously, Division 36 is in Lebanon, by the way. And they've been in Lebanon for over 4 or 5 months now. That was also due to the fact that Division 36 contains traditional Israeli brigades that are not aligned with Benjamin Netanyahu, that are mainstream. And the division and battalions and brigades introduced in Gaza consists of radical squatters from the West Bank, like the Kfir division or the Netzach Yehuda that the US administration declared that they're going to impose sanctions on. And this also indicates a split in Israel. Yoav Gallant is more affiliated with Golani that operates within Division 36, and Benjamin Netanyahu, he has these other brigades that are more aligned with him and follow this messianic radical belief and ideology. Not, again, don't get us wrong here. It's not like as if there's a good division and a bad division, but we're describing what's happening inside of Israel. Both of them commit genocide, right? But the differences between them. And like I said before, these two divisions, in particular, like Golani and Netzach Yehuda or the Eternity of Judea, previously had clashes in the West Bank that were recorded by IDF troops, by the way. And there was this notion that Division 36 now in Lebanon is influenced more by Yoav Gallant. This was very evident when Yoav Gallant stormed Benjamin Netanyahu's office at one point during this war, in the beginning, and I spoke about it at the time, and threatened to bring a Golani brigade to set law and order in the prime minister's office. Imagine the level of tensions you have between these people. In many cases, they couldn't have a meeting or a press conference together. They didn't talk for a while, and when they did talk, they were shouting and squaring, and it almost reached physical fighting between the security forces of both people, bodyguards and what have you. And security checking each other, Benjamin Netanyahu security checking the IDF chief of staff. This is the level of distrust that you have in Israel. So what are they going to do? Well, if they've reached a level, if Israel reached a level that they are stupid enough to go on an all-out war with Lebanon, and they prove that they are very, very stupid by what they've done in Gaza. Obviously, genocidal, racist, abhorrent, depraved, whatever it is, and stupid, because it didn't make any military or political sense. Think about it for 1 second. What military or political objective has Israel achieved from this genocide in Gaza? What? Nothing. Everything bad you can imagine, they've achieved it. Nothing good. From a military perspective, the Palestinian resistance humiliated them. The only thing they've done is cause destruction and a genocide against the population. The Palestinian resistance is getting stronger. Israel is a nation defeated now. Split society, split army, split politicians. The army has been humiliated. Tens of thousands of casualties. Politically, Israel's images across the world has been tarnished, and it reached a level where it's irreparable. Israel cannot bounce back from this. Now, where Israel bounced back from previous limited escalations, they're not going to be able to jump back from this. The images are there. The images are with everyone. The bodies and everything is everywhere, and it's going to stay there. It's going to stay there. It's not going anywhere. So you've reached a level of momentum and global support where no amount of money in the world would be able to change that. No draconian measures would be able to, nothing would change it. Which indicates that they're very thick and stupid and careless of their own people. Please remember that. Not only did they massacre Israelis in the Nova Festival, not only did they massacre on the 7th of October in Be'eri and Nir Oz and Ra'im, they also massacred their own people in Gaza. And this is what all of the protesters in Israel are saying. You're killing Israelis. You're rescuing bodies. What made them die? They were alive. What caused their death? Israel. If Israel cared about Israelis, they wouldn't have carpet bombed Gaza knowing that there are Israelis there. But this is a policy. This is the Hannibal Directive. This is the Hannibal Directive implemented. And many people in the Israeli society and the army, they know that. So you're having all of this, and obviously the front in Gaza where there's talks to potentially reach ceasefire, but we're still not getting anything. Really, we're still not getting any confirmation that there will be a ceasefire. What we do know is Benjamin Netanyahu still hasn't shown the draft to Smotrich and Ben Gvir. He probably knows the moment that he shows it to them, they're going to refuse it and they're going to cause a scene. He's being requested by members of the war cabinet, in particular Benny Gantz, to show it to Smotrich and Ben Gvir so that they can get their opinion on it. Benjamin Netanyahu mostly doesn't want to do this up until he secures the day after. He doesn't want to push it with Ben Gvir and Smotrich up until he has his future secured. Either a protection ring for his government, or a confirmation that he's going to be able to stay in power. And then again, that would require a protection ring from either Gantz or Lapid or some other parties for the day after the ceasefire. And he's getting there. He's in intense talks, by the way. Benjamin Netanyahu so far spoke with the opposition. The opposition leader, Yair Lapid, declared we're willing to participate in the... Imagine, after all of this criticism and calling it, he said, oh, I'll give you a protection ring to stop the war. They'll come up with any excuse to do a U-turn. And he also addressed, and we spoke about this a few days ago, his previous ally, then turned big foe, Avigdor Lieberman, and apparently, in accordance to reports in Israel, he offered him the position of the defense minister, replacing Yoav Gallant, who's a member of his party. So at the same time, he would have to think about having protection from within his party, and protection from outside, because if he sacks Yoav Gallant, who he sacked before, by the way, and had to bring him back before this, during the judicial reform protests, Yoav Gallant started to show more sympathy with the Israeli protesters. Netanyahu sacked him, and only after public pressure did he have him back, although he's a member of his party. He is going to have to secure protection from within, because Yoav Gallant might split from him and take many members of the Likud party with him, and therefore damage Netanyahu's home, which is the Likud party that he has been leading for so long and winning primaries in, by the way, because many people challenged him previously, and he still wins. Let me go to your comments, see Your comments, your questions, if you have anything. Let's have a look. And if you wouldn't mind, if you have anything, just highlight it for me so I can address it quickly. Samantha Wiley is saying, what did you make of Biden's interview with the Time, letting slip that Netanyahu is deliberately prolonging the war? Well, the terminology that he used was very specific. I'm not sure how he's able to have specific terminology, and a man looks like he's completely losing capacity. Where he said that something in the lines of, I'm not surprised that many people believe that he's prolonging the war for political purposes. And even if he's saying that as if it's not coming out of him, but he doesn't blame people for thinking that, it's a dig at Netanyahu. Why? Because he knows Benjamin Netanyahu. And I don't think it's a slip. I think it's very intentional and very deliberate. Look, everyone knows by now that there are tensions between the US administration and Benjamin Netanyahu. However, these are not strategic tensions. This is what people need to understand. There's a difference between a tactical tension and a strategic tension. The strategy is there. Support Israel up until the last breath. Clearly, they're committing a genocide and they're still supporting them. If there was a strategic tension and a strategic shift, you would see the US banning arms completely on Israel. That's it, cutting it completely. Not saying we'll support them, but with defense, we'll support them, but we'll delay it, we'll give them that. Not like that. So there is a tactical tension between both of them. That's been very evident. US started to use leverage ever since the beginning of this war, by the way. The first act of leverage, and again, we spoke about it at the time we covered that topic, was when they withdrew the aircraft carrier that they supposedly dragged to the Middle East to deter Iran and Hezbollah. And we were only 2 months in. Nothing has ended yet. Hezbollah didn't escalate to the level that they escalated now, and Iran hasn't even entered the battle anyway. And then the US withdrew it. Now, what many people didn't know at the time, that Israel had a lot of efforts and made a lot of efforts and talks and tried to lobby and pressure the US administration to bring the carrier back, to show some sort of, as if anyone is intimidated, by the way, as if anyone is intimidated by this carrier or the US or Israel, in particular from the resistance movements. So that was the first thing. Other things that were popping up but were not very evident, but then later on we started to establish that they are there, is the weapon delay. The delays in weapon shipments for Israel. That started to happen from very early on. In particular, after the temporary ceasefire ended. Clearly at the time, and there were talks at the time, that Israel's allies, in particular the US and Britain and the EU, gave them 45 days, between 30 to 45 days, to demolish the Hamas. And after that, they started lifting this support. And this was evident from the statements that we started to hear. People who were giving Israel a complete open check to commit every crime under the sun, including cutting off water, electricity, gas, and all food and all aid on the Gazan population. Politicians here from Britain, politicians from the US, from European countries, giving Israel the right to, or legitimizing them actually imposing a brutal, inhumane blockade against innocent people and hospitals and patients. Then they started to shift 2 months in, after the temporary ceasefire ended. So that's there, but again, that is not something strategic. And John11, thank you so much for your super thanks. A dentist guy's asking, do you really believe the diaper army is going to invade Lebanon? If so, what would be their goal? Look, again, from a common sense perspective, from a military perspective, and from a political perspective, it doesn't make sense to invade Lebanon. Why? Because there is no military answer to Lebanon. Any attack on Lebanon, any full-scale attack on Lebanon would be a hate-filled, angry, genocidal full-scale war against civilians. It wouldn't achieve anything politically, let alone militarily. On a political level, Israel's image will be tarnished even further. They will escalate tensions. They will open the space up for further retaliation and an increase in the attacks from the resistance movements in the Middle East against them, let alone Iran, that they're now facing another retaliation from, because they've tried that before. They went on a war with Hezbollah several times. As a matter of fact, how did they leave Lebanon? Israel occupied South Lebanon. They had the South Lebanese army. They called it Sadal. Why did they leave? Because of the resistance. So you don't have, even when your army was there, you had to withdraw. What does that say? I had no military answer. There was no enough political justification, although I had my agents and people there, but that clearly wasn't enough. And I was getting attacked constantly. What are they going to do now? I mean, Hezbollah, just from what they've shown, they have capabilities that are far more sophisticated than Israel. They've surpassed Israel now, Hezbollah. Again, as an armed movement, as an armed resistance movement, not even as an army. And it's probably better that way, because if they were an army, they would be corrupted by the politics, and then they'd become like the other Arab pathetic dead nations that are surrounding Israel and not doing anything. So they don't have an answer, but you see, that's the thing. That is, if you talk to someone with a sound mind, with any sort of reasoning. No one in Israel and the Israeli leadership has any sort of common sense. Like I said before, this attack on Gaza, the ground invasion in Gaza didn't make any sense, yet they still went ahead with it, although it was proven to be a massive failure before several times. Hezbollah as well, and we're talking about periods where they were both less well equipped. Now, what's convincing them from doing this? I would say one thing though, a lot of it is stemming from internal pressure. They're obviously seeing the pressure. They're seeing how many people left their homes because of the Hezbollah attacks and the Palestinian resistance attacks. They want to show the people that they are conducting something on a larger scale. And when they do, and even if they fail, they will spin it in the head of these people, even if they reach a deal that's not in their favor. And they've done that before. And Benjamin Netanyahu is willing to do it again. It's not like he's unwilling to do it, or he's done it before. He's spinning, when he's in the war in Gaza, he's spinning things and lying to the public. Rafah was supposed to be the final operation. Did you forget that? And before that, Al-Shifa Hospital was the main hub, and if we get it, we get the leadership and we're done with them. And after that, it was the Khan Yunis. Oh, that's the main leadership. It's there. Just remember the pattern of lies. And many people in Israel and in the Israeli society and his political allies and in the Israeli army are looking what he's doing. You're telling me this and then you go there. You're telling me that. But he manages to spin things around and fool people. Many people are fooled by him in Israel. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if they do. Catherine Fuller saying, hi, did you know the ICJ judge Barak from occupied Palestine resigned? I actually didn't know that. But I mean, who would try and go and defend them? Don't get it. These people. When you have people in Israel supporting it. Some people in Israel are verbally supporting the ICJ case against Israel. Those who know what's happening. And some of them are like columnists and stuff. So they will... KMM Productions saying YouTube is trying to make it impossible to watch your stream as it logs it every 1 minute, and I have 1 terabyte internet speed, should have no problem, but I have all the way when I'm trying to watch you. I mean, that's not a common thing that I get with regards to the stream. Sometimes there might be some sort of interruptions. I would definitely check the connection and obviously report it to YouTube just in case. You might get further support. Thanks for bringing this to my attention, though, because I've never heard that from other viewers, by the way. And Brother Kirk, thank you so much, brother. How is it going in New Orleans? Thank you very much for your super thanks. Shaz is asking, Mahmoud, why doesn't the Axis of Resistance launch a synchronized attack on Israel? They do. They do. In a limited manner and whenever they see fit. But each front acts based on the interest of that front. So when something is happening in Lebanon, and you're seeing a de-escalation, for example, from Gaza, both fronts know what's more suitable. Now, apart from Hezbollah and Gaza, by the way, Lebanon and Gaza, because they're different. They're different. Why? Because they have borders with Israel. So these are the most intense fronts. If you talk about Iraq or Yemen, for example, they have parameters that they operate upon. So Yemen said, so long as this continues, the same with Iraq, we will attack and we will intensify, and depends on the level of escalation, they will escalate, or the period, the time, how long it goes, or how aggressive is the genocide coalition attack on Yemen itself. All of these things are taken into consideration. However, saying that, there have been definitely synchronized attack, and they definitely have operation management together. And Stephen Burrows and Josie Buzz, thank you so much for your super. Kate's saying Israeli spy was caught in Iran recently. IRGC said IRGC was assassinated in Syria again and again. Do you agree that Israel has eyes and ears in Syria? Why doesn't IRGC have eyes and ears in Syria? Yes, Israel might have eyes and ears in Syria and in other parts. And Iran and the Palestinian and the Lebanese resistance have eyes and ears in Israel. Israel imprisoned Israelis, Israeli Jews who used to provide information for Iran in previous years. By that's not uncommon, but again, you wouldn't hear that a lot because people don't want to show you that these people, they have this reach. Many people were imprisoned in Israel for operating for other countries, including Iran. R. Christie is asking about Rafah. So far, Rafah, Israel is claiming that they have all of the Philadelphia corridor under control. And they're See, again, they publish things, they publish news that are not substantiated to try and, in my opinion, achieve an image of victory that they cannot achieve on the ground by this fake stuff that they publish. Like, one of them is, we found a tunnel, okay? We found a tunnel stretching from the Philadelphia corridor, apparently up to the border with Rafah, but it doesn't go to Egypt. So all of a sudden it stops there, okay? And reaches central Gaza. Then how did they prove that this was the tunnel? By showing images of a tunnel and showing us a map from the top. An image. So this tunnel could be anywhere. How are you saying that it's going there? And why are you saying that it's connected there? Two, again, like they did with the whole Rafah operation, because many people in Israel were holding it on Netanyahu that you haven't invaded Rafah yet. Although the whole campaign and the whole threat against Rafah was not substantiated on any evidence, as a matter of fact, it was based on complete lies. What were the lies? That we dismantled Hamas all across of Gaza and it's only Rafah left. What are you seeing now? That they're not attacking Rafah as much, and they're all across all of Gaza, in Jabalia, in Deir al-Balah, and everywhere, and getting hit far more than before. You see, so many of these actions that Benjamin Netanyahu takes and Israel takes, they're just image acts, like PR, and to show their people like, oh, we're doing something. Although senior figures in Israel, by the way, debunked Netanyahu, and we spoke about them at the time. One of them was a member of the Foreign and Security Committee, who was tied with Netanyahu, by the way. And he described how Benjamin Netanyahu manipulates these numbers and how he describes the dismantling of a brigade. An example that he gave was Benjamin Netanyahu will receive a report from the army, and again, the report is in question anyway, but let's say he received this report and this report had something right, okay? Because really and truly the Israeli army doesn't have a clue, okay? But let's assume for 1 second that they do. He will come with a report. That report will say each Hamas brigade in Gaza consists of 700 to 800 people. So far, we took down 10, 15, 20 of these brigades, okay? Again, although they don't have the numbers, they don't have the evidence, they don't have any substantial information or facts on the ground that they actually caused this damage, but they come up with these reports because they need to report something. What am I going to tell my prime minister or the public, that I've done this for nothing? Of course not. They're going to lie, and they do, like they always do. But they come up to Netanyahu, again, according to this man, saying that this brigade consisted of 800. And we took the numbers down to 600. Netanyahu will come out and claim we've dismantled this brigade. We dismantled this brigade. Why? Because the number was reduced from 8,700 to 6,500. That's not a dismantling. That's not a dismantling of anything. Or to him, if we affect the way they're operating or getting their communication from, that means we dismantle them. Again, that's not dismantling. They're still operational. They're still functional. They still have communication from on top of the ground, under the ground. That was evident from the battleground in Gaza. Why? Because the Palestinian resistance was moving expertise from the north to the south and vice versa, which means they have communication. But Netanyahu will come out and say that to the public, although they're getting beaten. When he was saying that, they were facing resistance in other parts, right? That's why he also probably had a slight de-escalation before Rafah, to try and convince people more that there isn't much action, right? That's why they withdrew the troops, because they knew if they keep them, they will keep on getting attacked, and more people will say, hold on, you're still attacked. How comes you claim that you dismantled? All right. Rafah operation comes after 4 months. The moment he invades Rafah, they declare they're going to the central camps. To a level and that's how much damage he has caused, to a level where it caused many people in the army who were talking about it and vocal about it, as reported in Israeli media, they were being frustrated. They were completely demoralized. They were done. Because to them, I came back to the same place I was in a few months back, and I was told that this brigade or whatever was done. And now I'm back and facing more resistance. What is this? Insult to my intelligence, saying Assalamu alaikum akhi wa alaikum salam. Have you heard about the DOJ confiscating Scott Ritter's passport? And if so, what do you think that action says about the fallacy of free speech? Yeah, I've heard about it, and we regularly speak about free speech. You see, what we're seeing now is that there is no genuine free speech. Free speech is you being able to speak your opinion freely, without causing harm, okay, without affecting someone else in terms of like you're being discriminatory against them, enticing for hate, or killing a group of people based on their religion or ethnicity or what have you, okay? You've done that with Russia. During the invasion of Ukraine, Facebook, Meta, they lifted restrictions calling for the murder of people based on their background. Okay. You have a situation now where it's very selective. So you have people in politics and in power calling to slaughter a whole population just because they're Palestinian, and always mixed with Islamophobia for some reason. They go well together. And that's fine. Kill them all. Protests, pro-Israeli protests, kill them all. No ceasefire. But everything. They project what they do in Israel abroad, right? They can talk, but if you criticize Israel, they'll start saying anti-Semitism and all of that garbage, nonsense that's unsubstantiated. Okay, that's a form of terrorism. It's not that that's just a lack of free speech. That's a form of terrorism. Terrorizing someone includes instilling fear in people to push for a certain ideology or agenda, to a level where they're trying to criminalize you saying anything against Zionism. Imagine that. So they'll tell you, you are using the term Semitism to hide Jewish. And question, what are the red lines? What are the red lines? Why is Israel a red line? Why is Zionism a red line? Certain historical events. Why? World War II, Hitler, the Holocaust. There are certain things that you can't not only deny, although you're entitled to deny whatever you want to deny, by the way, but you can't even question. Why? Because they're related and linked to today. They're related and linked to what's happening now. And they use all of that to criminalize anyone criticizing a state. And again, all of the evidence is against that. Even when you talk about the claim, for example, of anti-Semitism, and although the term itself is wrong, what do you mean anti-Semitism? Anti-Semitism, anti-Semite people. Who are the Semite people? Europeans, they're not Semites. But they're linking that to Israel to criminalize and instill fear in people from criticizing something valid that you have the full right to criticize. And they're pushing for draconian measures. Like it started off from way back, really, with the term anti-Semitism itself. Why? Because Zionism tried to ethnicize Judaism. Anti-Semitism rose with it to criminalize, criticizing the state that belongs to the Jewish people, right? According to them. And then everything is a no-no. And then you had, now, look at the IHRA definition, for example, of anti-Semitism, that many countries embrace, by the way, although they receive internal criticism from legal bodies before they adopt these definitions. The IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, for example, 7 out of 14 of these definitions relate to Israel. What do you mean relate to Israel? Israel is a state. What does that have to do with anything? Leading to the new anti-Semitism laws in the US and these draconian measures being taken in so many countries. Israel, obviously, it's this state that we're talking about, so they already have laws in place, nation-state law. They have laws banning the commemoration of the Nakba, and simultaneously have laws that punish people who deny the 7th of October attacks, okay? Or Holocaust denial, or what have you. Now, you've had these draconian measures being put in place. It's not only Scott Ritter. Like Israeli historian Ilan Papi, he had a visit to the US a few weeks back, and he was stopped by the FBI. He's Israeli, Jewish, and Ashkenazi too, by the way, who happens to be an anti-Zionist, and he's a historian who wrote The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. It's a must-read for anyone who wants to know the events of the Nakba and all of that time. It's a combined effort as well. He's had many help from Palestinian figures and historians, and he also had access to the Israeli archives, which was very important to conduct this work. He is being stopped by the FBI. So the FBI does not stop a child murderer who served in the IDF. Neither the US nor Britain nor other countries, they don't stop child murderers who committed genocide, but they stop a 70-year-old man lecturing who has nothing to hide, by the way, who says everything online and writes. Scott Ritter, again, agree with Scott Ritter or disagree with Scott Ritter. He has his ideas, he has his tone, practicing his freedom of speech, taking away his passport. What is that? And again, always compare Russia, Ukraine to Palestine, Israel. Please, don't forget that. Don't forget why they're supporting Ukraine with hundreds of billions. Because they are a nation that's being occupied by this evil country. Ukraine. Palestine, they will support the opposite side and justify everything. Heaps of hypocrisy and double standards, by the way. Not excluding racism and supremacy, of course. That's what you have. So no, there is no genuine freedom of speech. And don't get me wrong, again, you can't say, oh, this completely called for hatred on like Jewish people or Muslims or Christians or whatever. You can't do that. That shouldn't be something that's acceptable. But many countries are fine with Islamophobic conferences. For example, Germany, it's fine for people to speak against Islam as a religion, by the way. It's normal to use the term, now slightly fading, but it's still there, Islamic extremism or Islamic terrorism. It's acceptable for them. But to say Israel without mentioning the word Jew, whoa, what is that? And I'm against any form of religious attribution, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I want people to start saying, oh, you Christian that. No. All of that should be eliminated. But when we talk about Israel as a country, we're talking about a political entity, regardless of who's inside it. And we always differentiate between a Zionist, a Jewish person, an Israeli, a Semite. All of that is different. But you see, even if you come up with this argument and you come up with as much reasoning and as logic as possible, they don't care about that, because what they have is an agenda. What's the agenda? To manipulate the masses, to let them think a certain way, to serve their purposes, their financial and political and control purposes. They're not interested in anyone who asks, who complains. They just want numb, apathetic, consuming societies. Numb, apathetic, consuming societies who only focus on dumb garbage for the rest of their lives. They don't want people asking moral questions, asking about social justice, talking. No, that can be reserved to Hollywood movies, where you'll see superheroes helping society. And you can support them. And they'll insert a bit of military propaganda inside to make you love the military that takes you and uses you as cannon fodder so you can go and get killed for someone else's money, to gain money. This is how it works. CTG's, thank you for your super thanks, by the way, CTG. You're saying, what about these tens of thousands of mercenaries from India and Nepal? I didn't hear about massive numbers of mercenaries. I mean, what I do know is that there's a workforce from India in Israel, and Marvin as well. Thank you for your super thanks. But they're there to work and make up for the Palestinian workers from the West Bank that Israel stopped allowing to come and work in Israel after the 7th of October. And they have the audacity. Do you know what Benjamin Netanyahu asked the UAE leader to do? Bin Zayed? He told him, can you please pay the salaries of the Palestinian people? Because we don't want to allow them to work. So can you pay for them? Do you know what was the response that he got? Go and ask Zelensky for the money. Seriously, I was reported at the time. I'm not sure if he asked for Zelensky for the money though. Kate is saying, after His attack, Israel called 50,000 reservists. At this stage, is His playing defensive or offensive? It seems Israel has not learned their lesson. Will His go all out this time? Hezbollah is playing clever, sharp, to the point, and brave. That's what Hezbollah. Everything is calculated. Everything, the range, the number of attacks, the type of weapons used, how well they use it, where, when. Everything is calculated. Unlike Israel. Israel has no strategy. By the way, in case anyone hasn't realized so far, Israel has no vision. Israel has no vision. It has no strategy. The IDF has no vision. And that's coming from Israel. It's not coming like from me. People in Israel are saying that. And I'll say that, obviously. But they have no vision. What vision? What military vision? Again, what military or political accomplishments have they had? Nothing. So Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance, they are representing their original firm stance, showing solidarity with the oppressed Palestinian people. Unlike the other cowards in Arab states, sitting there enjoying everything and looking at the Palestinian people get slaughtered to death, let alone the depraved leaders of Western countries supporting this genocide and anyone else who supports this genocide. You still have resistance movements who are willing to, and Hezbollah have always been like that. And they've proven time after time that they stick to their guns, they stick to their morals, their principles when it comes to supporting the oppressed Palestinian people under brutality and occupation and genocide. Now, they said we're not interested in all-out war. Hezbollah said that. So if there will be an all-out war, it will be by Israel, not by Hezbollah. Hezbollah are doing something very calculated to keep Israel busy. Why? So they don't feel completely free in committing a genocide against Gaza. Makes perfect sense. Yemen, country in poverty, just got out of a massive, brutal war, standing up, facing the US, facing the hypocrite the US, facing the hypocrite genocide coalition, these hypocrite depraved governments and people in power, going to form a coalition, that's why we call it the genocide coalition, in support for Israel, using their taxpayers' money to go and try and prevent Yemen from forming a blockade against a genocidal state. How low can you be? How low can you be? This is what the US and Britain are doing in the Red Sea, the genocide coalition. And still with all of that, they're not stopping the brave Yemenis. There's a difference between light and darkness. There's a difference between people taking a moral position to stop a genocide in a country that's genocidal than people who share the genocide. People who are more genocidal than Israel, who committed far worse atrocities in their history than Israel. So if Israel escalates, they will be met with escalation from Hezbollah. What do you think they're going to be waiting for them? They tried to invade Lebanon twice, by the way, so far, since the 7th of October, 8th of October. In each of these times, they went back buried or in helicopters, evacuated, and they prepare everything for them. And hey, thank you so much for your super thanks. Saying, Israel coincidentally has huge hand in Hollywood productions. They literally create kosher Israeli superhero propaganda for America. Zionists do have, yeah. That's why you'll see many of them silent, right? They're paid by them. Mahmoud, Mind Over Matters, asking, Mahmoud, off topic, who is your favorite superhero? And if you had to choose one superpower, what would it be and why? My favorite superheroes are the people of Gaza. They're showing us live what it's like to be a superhero. That's these are my heroes, the real heroes, not fake heroes. I said it before, if Netflix wanted to do an ongoing series about superheroes, they'll do a series on Gaza from now up until 2125. A century of superheroes and stories. And the number one superpower is belief and faith. That's from mind over matter. Mrar is saying, why is America not kicked out of Iraq and Syria? And what happened to Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, and Turkey? Just talk. Well, clearly they have their own kind of deals with these countries. Now, many people in these countries call for their removal, but it's not like the US listens. They deal with these countries with the same entitlement that Israel deals with the Palestinians. With regards to Algeria, Egypt, Turkey, and Morocco, is just talk. Yeah, so far we've seen just talk. No one supports the oppressed Palestinian people in Gaza, these people who are slaughtered to death and have everything destroyed, apart from lip service, lip tax. Yeah, that's it. We condemn, we call on, you're bad, Israel. How can you justify that? Unjustifiable, any of them, by the way. I don't care what their justifications are. And primarily Egypt. Number one is Egypt. Obviously, they took a position against the ethnic cleansing. They prevented that from happening and going and invading, but seeing your people starving, murdered, slaughtered to death, no using leverage to stop it. Wow. And I gave an example when the Muslim Brotherhood government was there, when Morsi was there was an escalation. That didn't last for like 10 days, by the way, with hardly anything. Why? They threatened them. Egypt sent the prime minister of Egypt was in Gaza in the middle of the war, sitting with the leaders of the Palestinian resistance, sitting with Hamas leaders to show solidarity with them. You're under a threat, sending a message to Israel. But with this government in Egypt, Israel was able to commit multiple genocides. And that's a very shameful position for any country. But again, even with all of that, and even with very limited participation from the resistance movements, they're setting a new bar, a new equation. And obviously with Iran. And S. Khan, thank you so much for your super. I'm sorry if I missed anyone, by the way. Where were we? Where were we? Teshikom is saying, are there more disabled IDF burning their own bases? Look, if there's so much military censorship in concern to regarding actions that are happening, then imagine how much censorship there is with actions that are not very evident, right? Now, they couldn't hide the burning of this base, but they then had to obviously spin it, cover it up, say it was an accident and what have you. Then you've had this guy with a grenade. They had to publish it, but then they had to spin it. How did they spin it? They said he was disabled. So an Israeli IDF soldier goes, who's a reservist, but he's a reservist, goes and throws a grenade on the biggest Israeli base that was set on fire, set alight just a few weeks back. What does that say? That this place has been attacked. It's in an area where the government has a lot of resistance in Israel, Tel Aviv. Some of the biggest protests against Netanyahu are in Tel Aviv. People who are not only against the war but also against the genocide are in Tel Aviv. What does that link? What does that say? That says that there are people who oppose the army from within. Oppose the army from within. Israel will obviously try and spin it and say that, oh no, he was disabled and then he had PTSD and what have you. But anything, you know, they're lying about a genocide, let alone lie about this small incident. MCFCCTID, thank you so much for your kind comment as well, and everyone else as well. Excessive force. Is Russia still stationed near the Golan Heights? So why can't they stop Israeli jets from attacking Syria? They are stationed, but they wouldn't intercept everything. And saying that, if Israel attacks, that doesn't mean they attack from that region. They could be entering from multiple parts, not necessarily the Golan. They could be coming from the Mediterranean. They could be using something that's not detectable by the air defense systems of Syria and Russia and Syria. Like Hezbollah is conducting all of these attacks without them being detected the majority of the time by the Iron Dome. Why? Because they attack the Iron Dome batteries and radar systems. So the servant is saying, I'm from Bint Jbeil, South Lebanon. We were advised to move north because Israel invasion could be imminent. Thank you for that, by the way. And I hope and pray for the success and perseverance of our brothers and sisters in Lebanon. And yeah, that's a representation of what's happening in Lebanon. And it's... you know, many people are saying that it's imminent. And thank you for that, by the way, the servant, for that update. Bill Joseph, I would like to hear... Thank you for your super thanks, Bill Joseph, by the way. Thank you for that. You said, I would really like to hear your opinion about Mus'ab Hassan Youssef. A Hasbara cockroach. I have two words for you. A Hasbara cockroach. Hasbara is Israeli propaganda, and a cockroach is everyone who operates under the Hasbara. This man is paid by Israel. He sold his soul for the devil. I made a video about him about half a year ago, by the way, because many people asked me to talk about him for some reason. Although he's so insignificant, but he's plastered over mainstream media because these Hasbara bots keep pushing him. Right? A man who sold his soul for the devil on Zionist payroll, whitewashing Israeli crimes. How low can you be? Zionist lapdogs. The Palestinian version. Like these people who call themselves intellectuals on mainstream media or on social media, acting like they're independent or uncensored or whatever it is. And again, they're nothing but Zionist lapdogs or doormats or whatever you want to call it. People who are paid to say something, people who are threatened, people who are blackmailed, and people who are depraved, who a very extreme, radical, depraved minority supports this Zionist violent ideology. And this man is one of them. And again, thank you for your super thanks. And looks like we reached most of them. We'll wrap it up there then. Okay, everyone, thank you so much again for joining me for this live stream. I really enjoy these live streams with you. And again, sorry if I missed some of your comments. Many of them disappear with this live chat, and YouTube don't have an option for me to go back to the older comments. So please accept my apologies for this. And again, big thanks to John11, Manuel, Hazy Lady, Kirk, Josie, Steven, Shaz, Samantha, CTG, Marvin, and Hey, S, Khan, and Bill. Thank you so much for your super thanks. I really appreciate them. And thank you to all of our members, moderators, subscribers, and viewers, everyone for joining in and participating. Thank you so much. Like I said, you know, these live streams are for you to share your thoughts and opinions. Obviously, we're limited with time, and with the stream, like I said, many of these comments go away, but I'm here with you regularly anyway, hopefully daily with you. Apart from that, go ahead and watch my other videos that I posted earlier on, like short updates if you want to know a bit more about any of the certain things that we spoke about briefly. Apart from that, thank you so much again for participating, and I will see you soon in the next video. Stay blessed, everyone, and have a good night or day or evening, and peace be with all of you.